The planet Velar was small compared to many others in the galaxy. Its skies were blue, its fields green, and its oceans calm. The Velari were gentle people who lived in harmony with the land. They had no great armies, no massive ships, and no hunger for war. For centuries they believed peace would protect them. But peace alone could not stop what was coming. From the edge of space, a fleet of dark ships appeared. They belonged to the Kral Empire, a ruthless power that moved from world to world, taking resources and enslaving populations. When the Velari saw the first shadow of the Empire's ships, fear spread across their villages and cities. The Kral ships blocked the skies like storm clouds, and their leaders demanded surrender. The Velari had little choice. They sent a message into the stars, a desperate call for help. Their signal was weak, for their technology was not advanced. They did not know if anyone would ever hear it. Still, they prayed that some friendly hand would reach across the endless dark. Days passed, then weeks. No one came. The Empire began to land its soldiers on Velar. Villages were burned, families taken, and leaders forced to kneel. The Velari Council gathered in secret halls, their voices filled with despair. "No one will come," said Elder Mayan, his eyes lowered. "We are alone. Our message is lost in the void." Another elder, Sira, shook her head. "We must not give up hope. Somewhere out there, someone must have heard us. Someone must care." But the faces around her showed doubt. The galaxy was vast. Why would anyone come to help a small and powerless people when the Empire itself could crush them with ease? Far away, beyond countless stars, the signal drifted on. Most ships passed it by, their scanners too advanced to notice such a faint cry. But one ship did hear it. An old Terran Guard vessel, half forgotten in the history of Earth, caught the fragile wave. The ship was named Resolute, and though it was not young or mighty, it carried a crew with strong hearts. Inside the ship, a technician named Ryan noticed the weak signal. He adjusted the controls, clearing the static until the words of the Velari became clear. His eyes widened, and he rushed to the command deck. "Captain, you must hear this," Ryan said. Captain Aaron, a steady man with gray in his hair, listened as the desperate voice of Elder Sira echoed through the deck. The message told of the Velari's suffering, of the Empire's invasion, and of their plea for mercy. The captain closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with resolve. "We cannot ignore this," Aaron said. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They knew the Empire's power. To face them was to walk into the jaws of death. The Resolute was only one ship, and its weapons were not new. Many would call it foolish to fight. Yet there was a silence in the room, the kind that comes before a great choice is made. First Officer Brand spoke carefully. "Captain, if we go, there may be no return. The Empire will not let us escape." "Then we do not escape," Aaron replied. "We go because no one else will. If humanity stands for anything, it must stand for this." The crew looked at each other, and slowly, one by one, they nodded. They were not forced to follow. They chose it. The engines of the Resolute roared to life. Charts were drawn, and a course set toward Velar. The journey would take them through dangerous routes, but no one wavered. Ryan worked late into the hours, boosting the ship's systems to their limits. Brand trained the gunners, sharpening their skills. Engineers repaired old parts, making the Resolute as ready as it could be. Meanwhile, on Velar, the situation grew worse. The Empire enslaved more of the people, and the Council could no longer hide. Sira stood before the gathering of citizens and spoke. "I know you believe no one will come," she said. "But I tell you, the stars are wide, and hope is not yet gone. Somewhere, someone has heard us. And even if no help comes, we will not give our spirits to the Empire. We will endure." The people listened, their hearts torn between despair and belief. Above them, The Empire's ships loomed, and soldiers marched through the streets. The night was long and dark. But far across the endless gulf, the Resolute cut through the void, heading straight for Velar. The humans did not know what awaited them, but they carried with them something greater than weapons. They carried the will to fight for those who had no defenders. The Velari thought no one would come. Soon, they would learn that someone had heard. Soon, they would see Earth's mightiest force not in numbers or size, but in courage. The first step of the journey had begun. The Resolute was not a new ship. Its hull carried the scars of old battles, and its systems were patched with repairs made over many years. Once, long ago, it had been part of Earth's proud defense fleet, the Terran Guard. But those days had passed. The galaxy had grown quiet, and the Guard was slowly dissolved. Many ships were sold or abandoned. Yet the Resolute remained in service, manned by a small but loyal crew who still believed in the purpose of the Guard, to protect those who could not protect themselves. Captain Aaron often walked the ship's halls, running his hand along the worn metal walls. To others, the Resolute looked outdated, but to him it was alive. Every panel, every engine part held memories of past missions. He believed that the ship, like the crew, still had strength left to give. When the signal from Velar was received, the crew had felt the weight of the decision. They were not bound by any council or order. They were free to turn away. The Empire was vast and merciless. Who would expect one aging Terran ship to stand against it? Yet as the days passed and the stars slid by their windows, the crew worked with renewed spirit. There was no more hesitation. They had chosen their path, and now their only task was to be ready. Ryan, the technician who first heard the Velari's call, sat hunched over the signal logs in the comms chamber. He listened again and again to the voice of Elder Sira. Her words were full of fear, yet also of determination. The way she spoke touched him deeply. He thought of Earth's own history, when small nations once called out for help in the face of overwhelming force. He whispered to himself, "We cannot fail them." In the training bay, First Officer Bran drilled the gunners. The ship had only a handful of heavy cannons and 2 torpedo tubes. Against an Empire fleet, they were nothing more than sparks against a storm. But Bran taught the crew to use every shot with precision. He made them practice over and over until they could strike with accuracy in the shortest time possible. "Remember," Bran said firmly, "we are not fighting with numbers. We are fighting with skill. Every strike must count." Meanwhile, the engineers worked deep in the engine room. The heart of the ship, the old fusion drive, shook with power each time it was tested. Pipes rattled, and sparks sometimes burst from tired circuits, but the crew refused to give up. One of the engineers, Mara, tied her hair back and leaned into the roaring heat of the chamber. "This ship is not finished," she told the others. "We will make her shine again." The crew shared meals together in the mess hall, speaking of what lay ahead. Some laughed nervously, others sat quietly with their thoughts. They all knew the risks, yet there was no talk of turning back. The Velari's message had reached their hearts, and that was enough. Captain Aaron remained calm, but inside he carried the weight of command. Late at night, he stood at the viewing window of his quarters, staring at the stars. He thought of the Empire and the many lives that had already been taken. He thought of Earth, far away, unaware of the choice he and his crew had made. Above all, he thought of the Velari people waiting in despair, never expecting that help might actually come. He spoke softly to himself. "If we are all they have, then we will be enough." The journey stretched on. Space was vast, and dangers lurked even before reaching Velar. At one point, the Resolute passed through a region filled with drifting mines left from an old war. Each mine was still active, its sensors waiting for the spark of a ship engine. The crew worked carefully, adjusting their path with the smallest thruster burns, moving between the silent threats. It took hours, but they made it through without a single detonation. Later, they were chased by a band of raiders who mistook the Resolute for an easy target. The raiders' ships were fast and aggressive, but the crew fought with precision, striking the lead ship and forcing the others to scatter. It was a small victory, but it strengthened their belief that the Resolute could still fight with honor. As the stars shifted and the days grew shorter, Velar came closer. The crew could sense it. The thought of the Velari waiting in fear gave them energy to push harder. Ryan adjusted the scanners and called out, "We are nearing their sector." Bran placed his hand on the captain's shoulder. "Once we arrive, there will be no turning back." Aaron nodded. His eyes were steady. "Then we will not turn back." The Resolute moved forward with quiet determination, its engines glowing like a small but unyielding flame in the dark. It was not the strongest ship, nor the largest, but it carried something greater than power. It carried the choice to fight when others would not. On Velar, the people huddled under the Empire's shadow, believing their call had been lost. They thought no one had heard, no one had cared. But across the stars, the forgotten ship pressed on. Soon, the Velari would learn that their message had reached not an army, but something far greater, the will of humanity to stand against despair. The stage was set. The people of Velar had almost stopped looking at the skies. Each time they gazed upward, they saw only the dark ships of the Empire. The Krall fleet floated above the planet like a chain of iron, reminding everyone that escape was impossible. Soldiers marched in the streets. Villages gave food and resources to the invaders. Hope had grown so thin that many no longer believed it could survive. Elder Sira stood at the balcony of the council hall, watching the horizon glow with the smoke of burning fields. She whispered, "No one is coming." Her words carried the heavy truth many already accepted. But far away, in the deep night of space, the Resolute moved closer. Its crew had no illusions about what awaited them. They knew the Empire's fleet would be vast. They knew their ship would look like nothing more than a spark against a storm. Yet none turned back. On the bridge, Captain Aaron sat in his chair, eyes fixed on the main screen. The scanners were active, showing faint signals ahead. Ryan, hunched over his console, called out, "Contact." Multiple signatures. Reading dozens of ships in orbit around Velar. Bran frowned as he studied the display. Dozens. That's a small Empire fleet, but still more than enough to destroy us. Silence hung over the bridge. The crew knew the truth. One ship against dozens was madness. But Aaron did not flinch. His voice was steady. "We knew this would be so. Prepare the ship. We will not hide from them." The Resolute dropped out of hyperspace, and Velar came into view. The planet shone blue and green, a jewel trapped under the shadow of black warships. The Empire fleet noticed the human ship at once. Their sensors lit up, and their weapons turned toward the lone intruder. In the Empire flagship, Commander Zorth sneered as he studied the incoming vessel. "One ship? A relic of the Terran Guard? Do they think to challenge us with this? Foolish." He turned to his officers with a laugh. "Destroy it at once. Show these humans their place." Back on Velar, the citizens lifted their eyes as alarms rang across the Empire's command posts. A whisper spread through the people, a new ship had entered the skies. Some thought it was another enemy vessel. Others prayed it was the answer to their cries. Elder Sira stood in the council hall when a young Velari rushed inside. "Elder, a ship has come. It is not Empire. It is something else." Her heart leapt. Could it be? Or was this just another false hope? She dared to believe, if only for a moment. On the bridge of the Resolute, tension thickened. Mara's hands shook slightly as she monitored the engines. "Shields are stable, Captain. Weapons ready, but we are outnumbered 10-1. Aaron's gaze did not waver. "Then we will fight as if we are 10 ships ourselves." The first Empire vessels broke formation and closed in. Their cannons glowed red, charging to fire. Bran barked orders to the gunners. Hold steady, wait for the signal. The Resolute's hull shook as the first blast struck near, missing by only meters. The humans answered with a sharp strike of their own, firing torpedoes at the lead ship. The torpedoes struck cleanly, ripping through armor. To the shock of the Velaryon watching from the ground, one Empire vessel exploded in a fiery bloom. The people gasped. One small human ship had destroyed a giant Empire cruiser. The rumor spread like wildfire, someone had come. Commander Zorth snarled as he watched the burning wreck on his screen. Impossible. That was luck. Crush them now. The fleet swarmed forward, but the Resolute did not flee. Instead, Aaron's voice rang clear across the bridge. Target their weak points. Move fast. Make them chase shadows. The Resolute weaved between the larger vessels, its smaller size giving it agility the Empire ships lacked. The humans fired with precision, disabling communication relays and striking engines. One by one, Empire ships faltered. The fleet was still massive, yet the single Terran ship fought as though it carried an army. On Velar, the people gathered in the streets, their fear slowly turning into awe. Children pointed at the sky, where bursts of light danced. For the first time, the shadow of the Empire seemed to break. Elder Sira raised her hands and cried to the crowd, "Look! Someone has come. They have heard us. The stars have answered." The Velarion's spirits lifted. They had been ready to surrender completely, but now their hearts beat with courage. Even if the battle was not yet won, hope had returned. Inside the Resolute, sweat ran down the crew's faces as alarms blared. Mara shouted, "Engines overheating." Bran fired again, striking another Empire cruiser. Ryan kept scanning for weaknesses, calling out targets as fast as he could. Aaron's voice held firm. "Hold together. Every strike counts. Show them what humans can do." The fight raged on, fire and light painting the skies of Velar. To the Empire, it was unthinkable that one ship would dare face them. To the Velaryon, it was a miracle. To the humans, it was a duty. The arrival of the Resolute was more than just the beginning of a battle. It was the return of something greater, the idea that even in the darkest times, someone would come. The Empire believed battles were decided by numbers. Their fleets were always larger, their weapons heavier, and their reputation enough to frighten most worlds into surrender before a single shot was fired. But the humans of Earth had learned something different from their own history. Numbers could not win every war. What mattered was how you used what you had, and whether you were willing to fight with everything inside you. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Aaron studied the swarm of enemy ships closing in. The scanners lit up with red marks. It was like staring into a storm made of fire and steel. Still, his face remained calm. "They expect us to come straight at them," he said. "We will not give them what they expect." Ryan leaned forward at his console. "Then what is the plan, Captain?" Aaron's eyes narrowed. "We will not strike their strongest. We will strike their weakest. Cut their supply. Break their order. If the head of a beast is too strong, you go for the legs first." Bran grinned at those words. "Understood. Gunners, prepare for sharp precision fire." The Resolute changed its course, diving low toward the edges of the fleet rather than heading into the center. The Empire commanders, expecting the human ship to panic or retreat, hesitated at the strange maneuver. "Why are they moving away from us?" asked one Empire officer aboard the flagship. Commander Zorth waved his hand. "They are cowards. They try to flee. Pursue and crush them." But the humans were not fleeing. Their target was not the powerful battleships at the fleet's core. Instead, they went for the vulnerable supply ships drifting along the back. These ships carried fuel, ammunition, and food for the Empire's soldiers. Without them, the fleet could not hold its ground for long. "Target locked," Bran called. "Fire," Aaron answered. Torpedoes streaked across the void. They struck the first supply ship, tearing it apart in a sudden burst of flame. Shattered pieces drifted in silence, glowing against the stars. "Direct hit," Ryan reported. Before the Empire realized what had happened, the Resolute struck again, disabling another supply vessel. The crew of the Resolute moved with perfect rhythm, every action fast and sharp. On Velar, the people watching from the surface gasped. They had expected the humans to be crushed instantly. Instead, they saw Empire ships burning one after another. For the first time, the Empire fleet looked uncertain. "Are they running?" a Velari child asked, pointing at the sky. Elder Sira shook her head slowly. Her eyes shone with wonder. "No. They are fighting, but not as the Empire fights. They are clever." Up in orbit, the Empire commanders grew furious. "This single ship dares humiliate us." Zareth roared. "Destroy them now. Surround them." The fleet moved to close in, but the humans did not fight like the Empire. They darted and twisted through gaps, firing not at the thick armor of the warships but at the smaller ships that relayed commands. With each strike, the Empire fleet became less organized. Ryan shouted from his console, "Their communication lines are breaking. They're confused." "Good," Aaron said. "Confusion is our shield. Keep moving." The Resolute spun through the battlefield like a hunter, never staying in one place long enough to be pinned down. The crew fired at engines, weapon arrays, and sensor dishes, leaving enemy ships alive but blind and stumbling. To the Empire, it felt as if they were fighting not one ship, but a ghost that struck from every side. In the engine room, Mara kept the fusion drive roaring at dangerous levels. Sparks burst from the pipes, and the ship shook with strain, but she refused to slow down. "Hold together, old girl," she whispered to the Resolute. "We are not done yet." On Velar's surface, hope spread quickly through the people. Crowds gathered in the streets, cheering each flash of light in the sky. The Empire soldiers on the ground grew restless, for they too saw their fleet struggling against one small ship. Back in orbit, Commander Zareth slammed his fist against the control panel. "Enough of this game. Focus all fire on the human ship. I want them turned to ash." The Empire fleet obeyed. Dozens of cannons charged at once, aiming at the Resolute. Warning alarms screamed across the human ship. "Captain, they are locking on us from all sides," Ryan cried. Aaron's voice stayed calm, though the deck shook under his feet. "Then we move faster. Bren, give them nothing but shadows." The Resolute spun sharply, diving through the storm of fire. Blasts lit up the sky, but most missed their mark. A few struck the hull, rocking the ship hard. Panels cracked, and Mara shouted as systems flickered, but the ship held together. "We're still flying," she yelled through the COMM. Aaron stood tall, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Good. Then we strike again. Show them Earth's strength." The humans fired once more, hitting another supply ship. The explosion tore through the Empire formation, scattering their vessels. The mighty fleet now looked broken, chasing a single ship and failing again and again. On Velar, the people no longer whispered. They shouted with joy. Their cries echoed through the cities. "The humans have come. The humans fight for us." What had begun as despair was now turning into courage. The Velari looked at one another with new strength in their eyes. If one small ship could stand against the Empire, then maybe they too could resist. The first strike was not the end of the battle. It was only the beginning. But it showed the truth the Empire had long ignored. Humans were not to be measured by numbers or weapons alone. They fought with something greater, something that made every strike carry the weight of 100. And the Empire, for the first time, felt the shadow of doubt. The battle above Velar raged fiercely. The Empire's fleet, once proud and unchallenged, was now in disarray. A single human ship had changed everything. The Resolute darted through the chaos, striking weak points, disabling weapons, and scattering supply vessels. Yet Captain Aaron knew the worst was still ahead. The Empire had not yet shown its full strength. "Captain," Ryan said, scanning the approaching forces. "Sensors indicate the flagship is moving forward. Its shields are massive. If they engage us directly, we could be destroyed instantly." Aaron did not flinch. He had expected this moment. "Then we reveal what they are not prepared for," he said quietly. The crew exchanged curious glances. "Captain, what do you mean?" Bren asked. Aaron pressed a button, and a hidden compartment opened in the ship's hull. From inside, a powerful energy core began to glow with a soft blue light. It was the Aegis core, a system designed centuries ago by Earth engineers to defend entire worlds from overwhelming attacks. Unlike weapons meant to destroy, the Aegis core was a shield and an equalizer. "This ship has more than guns," Aaron said. "It has Earth's might hidden inside it. The Empire does not know this yet." Mara moved to monitor the Aegis core, her eyes wide with respect. "The energy readings are off the charts. If we activate it fully, we can protect Velar while striking their fleet in ways they cannot predict." "Do it," Aaron ordered. The Aegis core activated with a hum that shook the Resolute. A protective field expanded around the ship, shimmering like a bubble of light. Then, a pulse of energy shot outward, striking the closest Empire vessels. Their shields flickered and failed as systems overloaded. Several ships were immobilized instantly, leaving them easy targets for the human crew. The Empire commanders stared in disbelief. "Impossible. How can one ship do this?" Zorith shouted. "It is not even firing weapons directly." Aaron leaned over the console, eyes fixed on the screen. "We fight smarter, not just stronger. Their power is wasted if it cannot strike us." The humans began a precise assault. Instead of attacking the largest warships first, they used the Aegis core to disable engines, jam communications, and protect themselves from incoming fire. Each move was deliberate. Each strike counted. The Empire's fleet faltered, unable to predict where the next blow would come from. On Velar, Elder Sira watched in awe as the sky lit up with the strange blue pulses of the Aegis core. "They are more than a ship," she whispered. "They are Earth's spirit." Children cheered in the streets, and the citizens who had been hiding came out to see the miracle above. For the first time, hope did not feel fragile. It felt real. "Captain," Bran said as he fired another torpedo at an immobilized cruiser, "this is incredible. One ship, one crew, and they are causing chaos in an entire Empire fleet." Aaron nodded. "This is what humans do. When we fight for others, we do not rely on fear. We rely on courage, intelligence, and unity. That is our mightiest weapon." The Empire fleet tried to regroup. The flagship surged forward, its energy weapons glowing brighter than ever. Zoritha's fury was unmatched. "Crush them. I will not be humiliated by one human ship." The Resolute moved strategically, staying just outside the reach of the flagship's heaviest attacks. Then, Aaron gave the signal. The Aegis core pulsed again, sending a wave of energy that disrupted the flagship's shields. In that moment, every disabled ship and every precise attack of the humans came together. The flagship could not recover fast enough. "Now, fire!" Aaron commanded. The human crew launched their final salvo. Torpedoes struck the flagship with perfect timing. Systems overloaded. Explosions ran along the hull. The mighty ship, the symbol of the Empire's power, faltered. Zoritha's face turned pale as alarms screamed. The flagship limped back, retreating from a single small ship. The Empire fleet, seeing their command vessel in trouble, began to withdraw. Some ships were destroyed, others scattered in confusion. The humans had turned the tide without relying on overwhelming force. On Velar, People cheered so loudly their voices seemed to shake the ground. Elder Syrah's eyes filled with tears. "The humans have saved us," she said softly. "Not with numbers, not with fear, but with courage and cleverness. Earth has come for us." Captain Aaron leaned back in his chair, exhausted but calm. He looked at his crew, their faces shining with determination and relief. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The Empire will learn. They will learn that humans fight not for glory, but for those who cannot defend themselves. That is our greatest strength." The Resolute hovered above Velar, battered but unbroken. The Aegis core dimmed as its energy stabilized. The planet below was safe for now. Yet the humans knew their work was far from finished. They had revealed the might of Earth, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Velari now looked up at the stars with hope instead of fear. They had believed no one would come. They had been wrong. Earth's mightiest force had arrived. The battle above Velar was no longer one-sided. The once mighty Empire fleet, confident in its numbers, now struggled to maintain order. The Resolute had proven that one human ship could challenge them, not by sheer firepower but by clever tactics, courage, and precise strikes. Yet Captain Aaron knew the fight was far from over. The Kral Empire would not surrender easily. "Captain, their flagship is regrouping," Ryan called from the scanners. "They are preparing a concentrated attack." Aaron leaned forward in his chair. "Then we force their hand before they can strike. Bren, adjust the gunners. Ryan, calculate their weak points. Mara, keep the engines stable at maximum output." The crew moved as one, each understanding that every second could make the difference between victory and disaster. The Resolute was small, but it was agile, and every member of the crew knew their role. Meanwhile, the Velari watched from the surface of their planet. For days they had hidden, terrified of the Empire's overwhelming power. Now, seeing the humans maneuver through the alien fleet, they felt a spark of courage. Soldiers and citizens alike began organizing defenses, quietly aiding their own planet's survival. Even in the shadow of war, hope had returned. Back in space, the Kral Empire's fleet attempted to encircle the Resolute. They fired volleys of energy beams, aiming to overwhelm the human ship. Explosions lit the void, and the small ship rocked under the assault. Panels cracked and alarms screamed. "Shields are holding, but not for long," Mara shouted. "Keep moving," Aaron commanded. "We are faster than they think. Make them chase shadows." The Resolute darted through the fleet, striking disabled ships and jamming communications. The Empire, confused and disoriented, could not focus their attacks. Every failed strike against the human ship forced their formation to crumble further. Then Aaron gave the signal for the next move. "We hit the flagship directly, but carefully. Avoid their main weapons. Focus on mobility systems first. We trap them." The crew worked with perfect coordination. Torpedoes struck precise points, engines flared and malfunctioned, and the flagship slowed. Commander Zaratha's rage became almost visible as he shouted orders, but the humans had predicted this. Every step they took was part of a larger plan. Bran fired another series of shots, disabling smaller escort ships around the flagship. "We've got a clear path," he shouted. "Good," Aaron replied. "Ryan, calculate trajectory for the trap. Mara, keep us stable." The Aegis core glowed faintly, providing protection against the concentrated beams of the flagship. The Resolute approached at high speed, weaving between explosions and debris. The flagship tried to adjust, but it was too slow. The humans had set the stage perfectly. "Now," Aaron commanded. A calculated pulse from the Aegis core hit the flagship's energy field, overloading it temporarily. The ship shuddered violently, and its engines faltered. The smaller disabled ships were nudged into its path by gravitational pulses, creating a perfect trap. The flagship could not maneuver, and the Empire fleet watched in disbelief as their command vessel became immobilized. "Impossible," one officer whispered. "How can one ship control them all?" On Velar, the citizens cheered, their voices loud and clear even from orbit. Elder Sira raised her arms and shouted to the people, "The humans are with us. Do not despair. Stand strong." Back on the Resolute, the crew prepared for the final strike of this maneuver. "Captain, the flagship is locked in position," Ryan said. "We can disable it completely if we act now." Aaron nodded. "Do it." Precision and courage. Every move counts. The human crew fired once more, striking the flagship's engines, navigation systems, and weapon controls. Sparks and explosions flared across its hull. The massive ship, once a symbol of the Kral Empire's power, now drifted helplessly among the wreckage of its own fleet. The Empire ships began retreating, realizing that their command was lost. Some fled, others surrendered, and a few were destroyed in the chaos. The Resolute, though battered and exhausted, remained in full control of the battlefield. Captain Aaron turned to his crew. "We did what no one thought possible. But the fight is not over. We must be ready for whatever comes next." Bran clapped Mara on the shoulder. "We held them off. We actually held them off." Mara smiled, exhausted but proud. "And Velar is still standing. That is what matters." As the dust of battle settled in orbit, the Velari realized something profound. Their hope had been restored not by armies or overwhelming firepower, but by courage, strategy, and the willingness of one human crew to risk everything for others. On the surface, Elder Sira spoke to her people, her voice steady and clear. "The humans have shown us what it means to fight for what is right. They have given us hope. Let this be the beginning of a new strength in Velar." Above them, the Resolute floated, battered but unbroken. The humans had changed the tide of battle, proving that even against overwhelming odds, courage and intelligence could win. The turning point had arrived, and the Kral Empire would never underestimate humanity again. The galaxy had witnessed something remarkable. One small ship had stood against a mighty force and had not only survived but triumphed. The battle was far from over, but the humans had shown that the heart and mind could outmatch even the largest army. And the Velari would never forget it. The dust of battle had settled, and Velar's skies, once filled with fire and smoke, were calm again. The Kral Empire fleet had retreated, their mighty flagship crippled, their soldiers scattered. The people of Velar emerged from hiding, staring at the single human ship hovering above their world. It was battered and scratched from battle, yet it remained upright, a symbol of endurance and courage. Elder Sira walked through the streets, her heart full of relief and gratitude. Citizens gathered around her, eyes wide, voices trembling with joy. Children pointed at the sky where bursts of light had once danced, and adults whispered their thanks to the humans who had come when no one else would. "They saved us," a young Velari said softly to his mother. "One ship, and they saved all of us." Sira nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes. They saved us. And they showed us something greater. Even in the darkest moments, there is hope." Above them, the Resolute hovered quietly. The crew was exhausted but proud. Captain Aaron stood at the bridge, his hands resting lightly on the console. He looked out at Velar, seeing not only the planet but the lives they had saved. Bran spoke from his station. "Captain, the battle is over. We actually did it." Aaron nodded. "Yes. But this is only the beginning. There will always be those who seek to harm others. We have shown what humans can do, but our work is never done." Mara leaned back in her chair, wiping sweat from her forehead. "We fought not for glory, not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do. That is what makes us human." The Velari had begun repairing their cities even as they thanked the humans. Soldiers and volunteers worked side by side to clear debris, treat the wounded, and rebuild homes. The people felt stronger than ever, inspired by the bravery of those who had come across the stars to defend them. On the surface, Elder Sira called the citizens together. "We have been given a gift," she said. "A gift of courage and hope. We will honor it by never forgetting the lesson we have learned. Even when all seems lost, help may come from those who believe in what is right." Children ran through the streets, mimicking the humans' daring maneuvers in playful games. Families laughed together, a sound that had been absent for too long. The atmosphere was one of renewal, and the people felt that their world had changed forever. Meanwhile, the Resolute prepared to leave Velar's orbit. The ship was still damaged from the battle, but the mission was complete. Captain Aaron stood at the window of the bridge, looking back at the planet below. "You have done well," he said softly to his crew. "Not because of our weapons or our numbers, but because of our courage, our unity, and our will to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is our true strength." Ryan smiled, his eyes reflecting the blue and green of Velar. "We have shown them that humans will not abandon those in need." Aaron turned to the crew. "Remember this moment. Remember the power of hope. We are small in the vast galaxy, but even small hands can shape the future if we act with heart and purpose." The ship slowly lifted, leaving Velar behind. From above, the planet looked peaceful once more, its skies clear, its people safe. The humans had arrived when no one else would. They had fought against overwhelming odds, showing that courage, intelligence, and determination could overcome even the strongest enemies. Back on Velar, Elder Sira spoke to the people once more. "Tell your children of today. Tell them that when the call for help goes out, there are those who will answer. Remember the humans. Remember what they have shown us. Let this be the beginning of a new legacy for our world." As the Resolute disappeared into the distance, the Velari knew that their planet was no longer alone. Across the stars, humanity had made its presence known not as conquerors, but as protectors. A message spread throughout the galaxy: when the weak call for help, humans will come. The people of Velar celebrated, but they also prepared. They had learned from the humans that courage and knowledge were as powerful as any weapon. They began training, building defenses, and planning for the future. They wanted to ensure that they could stand tall, inspired by those who had come to their aid. On the ship, the crew of the Resolute shared a quiet moment. They had completed their mission, but the knowledge of what they had accomplished filled them with pride. They had proven the truth of humanity, that even in the darkest hour, humans rise to protect, to fight for justice, and to give hope to those who need it most. Captain Aaron looked to the stars. "This is our legacy. Not just the battles we win, but the hope we bring. Wherever there is need, wherever there is despair, humans will answer. That is what makes us strong. That is what makes us human." And so, the story of the Resolute and its crew became legend. Velar would remember, and the galaxy would know, Earth's mightiest force is not counted by the size of its armies, but by the courage of its people. A new legacy had begun, one that would echo across the stars for generations to come. The humans had arrived, and the universe would never forget it.